Oh, I did not want to
afternoon.
get up this morning. It was so cold.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's hot here. It's really
I
hot.
I know.
Uh,
It-
I
Doesn't it fascinate you how many different temperatures there are around the world all the time?
all the time,
Yeah,
all the time. It just
incredible.
shows how this planet is in constant change and motion, and the energy and the
Yeah,
vibes and everything. It always changes. Everything changes, and people
absolutely.
say, "I don't want to change." That's the one thing people don't want to do.
Oh, no, change is the only constant in life.
It is. It is. Yes.
Yeah,
So we have got a powerhouse of a
yeah.
leader on today's
I'm very
show.
excited.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce him?
Yeah, well, this guy is in the same place as you, same country as you,
Yes.
different time zone though.
Yes. Different
He's
time
in
zone.
San Diego, and he what let's get him down.
He's the
Leonard
top.
Malmayan.
He's the top.
He's the top. Okay,
Yeah.
Leonard Malmayan. Let's come on down. Here he is.
There he is.
Wow.
Oh, there he all the way from California.
Oh, he's making me feel warm just looking at his as backdrop.
Yep. Yep.
Good morning, Leonard.
Good morning to you.
It's afternoon over here, Chris.
Oh, okay. So good afternoon.
It doesn't matter.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
That's right.
That's it. We could say it all together.
That's right. That's
Oh,
right.
lovely.
So Leonard, I'm going to just jump in here, and I want to know, how long have you been an iridologist, iologist? How long have you been steeped in what we love?
50 years.
50 years. I told you he was the top.
50. Wow.
He's the winner.
Yeah,
he's the
he's
winner.
definitely the winner. That's the longest we've heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And Leonard, what inspired you? Tell us your story. What inspired you to get into iology and iridology and sclerology? And yeah, I want to hear this.
I was at the racetrack. I reached in my back pocket to get my wallet and shook hands with Bernard Jensen. Just kidding. No, I always wanted to tell that joke. Actually, I was at Bernard Jensen's ranch, but I was there to meet a group of people who were into a subject that I was really fascinated with, and still am, is cooperative community. A man who was trying to buy Dr. J's ranch, and there was a coffee table there, and there was a book on it. I was waiting to be interviewed, or to interview him, and it said iridology. Well, what's this? I never saw this before. So I opened it up. I lost interest in everything I was doing, everything else in life. All I wanted to do was look at eyeballs. And I don't know what it was. The best that I can figure is it was just something that I've been associated with, perhaps in some other lifetime, because it was just so powerful, so strong, the attraction. Yeah. So I just had to, so that's how that happened.
Awesome.
I stayed there for a few months. I wound up, actually staying and listening to a couple of must have been 3 of Dr. J's lectures. I mean, the guy was just so fascinating. He was like old homespun storyteller, and it was such a delight to be there. I mean, I never really studied with him, but he was lecturing on different subjects. They were related to health. And it was just so much fun to just sit back and listen, because he's just exuded charisma, he's one of those kind of persons. So I didn't know until sometime later that he was, like, in the United States, he was list #1, and he was famous in different parts of the world in iridology. Yeah. So it was just, as I say, it was a real pleasure being down there. And then I met, you were going to ask me a question. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's it.
No, that's it. Yeah.
Well,
I was just going to ask, and then what happened, basically? I mean, and then how did you study, and how did you become more into sclerology, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. Well, okay. I got into his book, and then I wound up in San Diego. That was in the town. I'm in San Marcos now, and right next door is Escondido, which is where Dr. Jensen's ranch still is, presumably. I don't know. And so then I moved to San Diego and connected with this Dr. John Lulai. It was a chiropractor, and he wanted me to work for him. But meanwhile, right after I got down to San Diego, it wasn't long after that I was studying and studying and studying. I thought, I'm starting to look at eyes. And I taught a little class in a little building in Ocean Beach, which is a suburb of San Diego. And one of the persons in the class that I taught was Harry Wolf. And I think that was his introduction to iridology. And so he invited me to come to one of his concerts. He had a little band, and he was so good at playing the guitar and rock music. So that was a delight. And then at some point, there was this other man that I met. His name was Leslie Goldman, and he had a hitch in his get-along. He had a kind of a limp, and but he was a delightful character. And so at some point, after I was living in San Diego for a while, and after a few years, I designed a map, iridology map. I think it was my first one. And this Leslie Goldman, he called this Hollywood trance channeler to come and talk to a group in an old house there in San Diego. And he invited me to go along. And for some reason that I didn't know, I brought this iridology map that I'd created. So then at some point, somebody took my map and passed it up to this trance channeler. And he was in a trance, yeah. And so they asked him, what about the person who designed this map? And the trance channeler said, he should know. He was a great iridologist on Atlantis. So I thought, what? I didn't know anything about Atlantis. But this is what he said.
Yeah.
So subsequently, I got into iridology. It wasn't too long after that I got into sclerology. So then I met, I'm sorry?
How did that happen?
Well, somebody handed me a map, a little booklet actually, and it was from something called the Texas Sclera Society. So I thought, wow, because I've been noticing these red lines, in the scleras. And I thought, there's got to be a map. It's got to be telling us something. It can't be just soreness, in the eyes. So it turns out that this is from, who was it? A naturopath who had worked with the American Indians, a couple of American Indian groups. And he had discovered that they had been using the scleras as an evaluation technique for who knows how many centuries. So anyway, I got hold of Jack Tips, who was the student of this.
Is his name Wheelwright?
Thank you. So I never met him, but I did meet Jack Tips. And so I was so delighted. I was like, another map, great, to the body. Because I wanted to be, I was in my 30s. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I had college degrees in music and anthropology, but I didn't know what to do. And that's when I came across that book by Dr. Jensen. Then I knew what I wanted to do. But I thought, well, maybe I could get into medicine. But I didn't have the money, but I looked anyway into, allopathic, what turned out to be Rockefeller big pharma medicine. And I studied a little bit, and I thought, these guys are drug pushers. I don't want to do that. So I thought there's got to be another kind of medicine. That's when I found naturopathic. But there is naturopathic, there's a, registered, and then there's the traditional naturopath. Well, that really resonated with me. So there wasn't any school that I could go to, but there were a whole lot of classes, pathology, pathophysiology, anatomy, and the whole thing. So I went to whatever school that I could go to, San Diego City College, any class that I could take. And that's the way I learned. It's the way I learned iridology and sclerology, as it turned out. I just digested everything that Jack Tips had, Wheelwright had, and found out that the Chinese have been using the scleras to verify acupuncture for at least 1,000 years. This is proven. So these eyeballs, this is natural, man. This is, so, I mean, I was just even more excited about it. And so I just kept studying it. And I realized there were these big gaps in the sclera map. What's in there? So then after seeing patient after patient after patient, so I realized, that's what's there in that area of the sclera. And of course, I was looking at the irises as well, because I started out with iridology. And then, of course, at some point, a few years later, I came across, something like that, sometime in the late 70s, 78 or something, I think, Denny Johnson. And that was another delight. Oh, boy. So the personality. So what I've realized since then is the irises have several other maps that I've been researching little by little. With the time that I have, it's really difficult to just find the time with other responsibilities that I have here. So are you ready? Etheric iridology. Yes. There is a map that I've been working on. Yes.
Wow.
But I can't release it yet because I need more verification. There is emotional, but it's the etheric and emotional just like tied together. So it turns out that they're like one map. And then there's mental iridology. Yes. And I just have a sketch of that map. And then there's causal. So causal, that's the subtlest. So I have almost nothing on that one. But it turns out that the eyes have all this information, excuse me, in the scleras as well. And what I found out just comparing the two, and because they're just like this, they hug each other, so to speak. Yeah. The scleras are always hugging the irises. Notice? It's like an embrace.
You just don't slow down, do you?
I'm sorry.
Well, what a pioneer, hey?
Yeah. Still.
Yeah.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
So Leonard, you've seen thousands upon thousands of eyes. We know this. Can you tell us maybe what your favorite sign is, your favorite iris type, something along those lines?
Or sclera sign?
Sclera sign, yeah, whatever.
Healing signs in the iris and the sclera, because what they show is the purification, which is what we're really here for in life. We're on this planet for purification, for release, for awakening. And so I really like to see that. And the healing signs in both the iris and the sclera are signs of someone who, usually it's a sign of someone who takes on the discipline of purification, which is really important in life. It's an intelligent thing. I mean, discipline is the hallmark of an adult human being. And so we take on the discipline of purification, like fasting or liquid dieting. I had to write a book on that after traveling. We just went to so many countries. And Australia, we were probably there 6 or 7 times, I think. We were in Germany, Italy a couple of times, England a few times, Iceland. We were over there. Lilia invited us over there. We were over there 12, 13 times to help her develop a school over there. It's a wonderful country. So all these places and people. We met Willie Hauser and gave him a copy of this book, this manual, Sclerology.
Hey, it's a good
And
manual.
then the next thing I know, he's inviting us to Munich, where he was teaching a class. I mean, there must have been 100 people in that class. And so he holds up the book and he says, "You guys have got to check this out." So that was gratifying. And we went to, I like this one. I don't know if you guys are interested in this sort of thing.
Oh, absolutely.
We learned in the process that the scleras have probably twice as much data as the irises, but they really, like John Miles, he characterized the irises as genetic predisposition, information on genetic predisposition, whereas the scleras, as John put it, were like systems status indicators, which is, pretty nice way to summarize it, because the irises don't show their data in real time, but neither do the sclerases. But the scleras, you can get within 3 days of accuracy in terms of the timing with sclera data. Yeah. And so I proved that out many times. But anyway, so at some point I came across this woman who was a researcher. She contacted me. She was a Russian. She was actually from Kazakhstan, and they speak Russian. And so Saida Isabakova, Dr. Isabakova. So we were talking, and I said, who's really good in iridology in Russia? And she says, "Oh, that's Dr. Evgeny Velkover. He's a medical doctor and a doctor of science." And so I said, "Well, we should talk with him." And she said, "Oh, the great Dr. Velkover," as though he's unapproachable. So he's a man. Let's give him a call. And she had his phone number, but she wouldn't dare call the great Dr. Velkover. Hey, he's a guy. Let's call him up. So we called him and hey, can we come over and talk with you? So he says, "Sure, come ahead." So we went over there into his flat in Moscow, and we had some wonderful discussions, some of which I have on tape. And then he introduced us to his premier student, Dr. Makarchuk, and who's been over here. Ellen Dart Jensen, who lives in the same town here, she invited Dr. Makarchuk over for Dr. Jensen's centennial. So it's been like this. I mean, being able to meet these people in these different countries. Professor Garcia in Brazil, we've been down there about 6 or 7 times, and we're still working together. So it's been like this, being able to travel to these different countries and meet these different people. Something that I noticed that you guys might be interested in. It's just kind of a side issue, but I think it's pretty important. We noticed that wherever we went, ordinary people like us, they're basically peaceful, and they want peace. And so why is the world in such a weird place where there's wars and all this crap? I figured it out. It's these leaders, these damn leaders. They're supposed to be, doing good things for us and serving us. They're involved in wars and stuff. They involve us in that. So the people, I thought that was interesting. No matter where we went, Russia, oh, those dirty Russians. No, they're not dirty Russians. They're ordinary, normal people like us, So whatever that means to you.
Right. Thank you for that.
Awesome.
So Leonard, let me ask you this. This is kind of off script. There was no question for this, but do you see patients now, or are you just focused on research?
I got a patient coming in next week as soon as I can nail Nita down to actually hold this lady's eyes. But I don't have an office anymore. It was just too hard on me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get into research, and research is my favorite thing. Oh, it's so much fun. I have several projects going. And the data that I'm putting into scleroform's my secret book. But I just finished a book called, it's a map book, Sclerology map book, second edition.
Oh.
It's more than twice the size of the first and does a lot of research material. Really,
That's
it's
great.
my masterpiece. And I turn it over to Nanita. It's done. But this lady, my beloved wife, Nanita, is the hardest working person I've ever met in my life.
She's awesome.
She, she does medical billing, and most medical billers, she does it so that to keep us afloat here financially. And most medical billers take care of 2 doctors. She has 8.
Wow.
Wow.
And right now, on the weekends, Friday and Saturday, she goes up to Fallbrook and takes care of this 94-year-old guy, does caregiving for him.
Wow.
So this is Nanita. Yeah.
Big
Amazing.
heart. Big
I
heart.
love her.
She's
She's
an
so
expert
good.
iologist, by the way.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
as soon as I can, and her desk is right over there. I have one screen, right? I don't know if you could see it. She's got 3.
Wow.
Oh,
Going back and forth from one to the other.
Yeah.
So
She is a
across from me, and I'm feeling I gotta make a phone call. Nanita, can I have a couple of minutes here?
she is a beautiful spirit. She really is. So we have a little game that we play, and we are going to ask you to pick a number between 1 and 36. And I'm going to draw a question off our board. And it's just a question around the world. So pick a number between 1 and 36.
24.
And it can be about anything. We don't know. Oh. So this talks about behavioral iridology and the area of escapism that we see in the eye. So when we're talking about escapism in behavioral iridology, what exactly can that be related to?
Escapism. Well, there are so many things in the world right now that one would really want to escape from. So many pressures. People are under so much pressure. I mean, people are wound so tight that almost anything, the cat crying, Puff here, jumping in my lap. Oh, go away. I'm busy. Something like that. I mean, it pushes people over the edge, like all these killings that have been going on in Texas recently and so on. We don't live in a wisdom culture. We live in a crazy random culture. That's a good way to characterize it, those terms. So we have to turn that around. There's a book, it's called Not Dash Two is Peace. Get that book. That tells you how we got into this mess. It's this feeling of separation. Oh, those dirty Russians or those awful Chinese or whatever, the other guy and me. No, I'm a member of a family. It's called human beings, humankind. We're brothers and sisters. And we have, and especially our leaders have talked cooperation for thousands of years, millennia. They talk it. They're really good at it. We're going to have peace if we just do this and do that. No. We got to act it out. All of us have to act it out. Act like, I see a person who has a different color skin than me. That's my brother. That's my sister. So this is what we have to do. And that book, Not Two is Peace, is about that. It's about us, instead of fighting each other, instead of acting like and listening to our so-called leaders, who are a bunch of egoic idiots as far as I'm concerned, most of them. We got to embrace each other, and we have to tolerate the petty differences, and we have to cooperate with each other. Cooperation plus tolerance equals peace. There's your formula. Cooperation plus tolerance.
Beautiful.
And often peace starts from within us all.
Thank you. Yes.
And what would you say, Kathy, about that, Iris?
Well, about escapism, I know I agree with what Leonard says. I agree with what you say. And I understand that a lot of people just want to check out.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's packing a bag and walking away. And it's sometimes just learning how to escape into your own silence,
Yeah.
go within and do some soul searching and some reevaluation of self. If you can do that, a lot of ego stands in the way and
Absolutely.
doesn't allow people to do that.
It's, these leaders, they even will mention the G word, God. It's written on the dollar bill, But what about embracing the divine reality? That's what reality is. Reality is the divine. It's all of this. We're living in its wonderful body.
Yes.
The great body of the divine, the great consciousness of the divine. God, you could put whatever name you want to it. It's not something that we can imagine. It's way beyond what we can imagine. Because the mind, you got your baby, you're come on, time to do, I don't want to do my yoga. You got your mind, which is the fat adolescent idiot that drives you nuts most of the time. Then you got your heart, which is the adult. So when you're always turning to the divine, that's what makes the adult grow and take over this body and mind.
Beautifully said.
Way to put it, isn't it?
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what, it has been a pleasure to talk to you and have you speak with us and speak to the many people that will see this little broadcast. We're so excited that we can do this for our Iridology family all around the world. And I'm so glad that the message that you brought today, Leonard, is going to fall on a lot of ears. We just hope that they take that to the soul and listen and open up.
I mean, this is a service, an important service that you're performing here.
Thank you.
Because this science, as I say, this Rockefeller big pharma medicine has been suppressing every kind of medicine, every kind. And I felt it. I can tell you all kinds of stories about that. Yeah. But we must stand firm, stand strong. If you feel energy for iridology or sclerology, iology is the term I like to use because it encompasses all of them. If you feel a movement toward it, do it. Hang on to it.
Very good.
Right on. Awesome.
Thank you, Leonard.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Blessings.
Blessings to you.
Guys. Okay, bye.
Bye.